Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to my channel, Do Ministry Gaming, and in this video, I'm going to be doing a budget build guide for my Toxic Rain Caustic Arrow Pathfinder character that I've been playing so far in 3.15 Expedition League. Now, if you've been following me already on YouTube, you already know that I have a number of Toxic Rain guides on my YouTube channel already, and especially if you have been following in the last couple weeks of League Start. I have posted a few videos about updates on my character so that you could follow along. But I felt like I needed to make one sort of final official build guide for 3.15 just because so much has changed in the patch for the build as it has for a lot of other builds. And I just wanted to summarize kind of all of my videos and all the changes I made to my character sort of into one video so that you know, it's clearly walked through for any new player who is just joining the game or anybody who is just you know, coming into the build in 3.15. They don't have to get too confused about my previous guides or, you know, have to follow along a number of different videos just to get to this point. So this video will be a complete guide on this character. Now this character is a budget League Start character, okay? It is sub 10x. And I'll go through that in the gear here and how much you're going to expect to spend on each piece of gear. But it is a sub 10x build. It has allowed me to do you know, up to the red maps in the Atlas. I can kill all the Conquerors and Cyrus on Awakening level 8. Even though the damage is a little low given the budget, you know, it does take a while to kill these bosses. So, you know, if you are at this exact budget point, while you can do it, you do still need to be quite familiar with the bosses in terms of how they function and the skills that they use in order to complete those bosses. I've also been able to complete the Formed and the Twisted, whichever the first two are, with the Shaper Guardians and the Elder Guardians to get my Uncharted Realms points. And so this build definitely is viable, and you can definitely scale it to much further than I have. If you invest another 20-30 exalts into the build, you will be quite a bit stronger. But if you're just looking to step in and, you know, something budget that functions in 3.15, this could be the build for you. All right, so I'm going to go through the skill gem setup now. If you've been following any of my Toxic Rain videos in the past, you'll know that I just primarily use Toxic Rain for pretty much everything. And then I supplement it with Caustic Arrow if I want a bigger screen clear, although I never personally ever did. It was an option for people who want sort of a wider area of coverage. With the changes in 3.15, and if you're not familiar with what they are, basically all the support gems have got toned down in power, resulting in all characters having a reduced power level about 20 to 40% just off of support gems alone. Then, specific to Toxic Rain, there were a couple other changes as well that impacted it. The first is the cluster jewels. They no longer do crit chaos damage over time multiplier. A lot of that is removed or significantly nerfed from the notables as well. And so the medium cluster jewels themselves, you'll see, you know, they used to do chaos damage over time multiplier. They now just do chaos damage over time. And same with a lot of the notables. The numbers on the chaos damage over time multipliers, if they even still exist, have been significantly reduced. So you're losing a ton of power that way. Attack speed got nerfed significantly in the patch. Something that Toxic Rain has relied on a lot in the past to have high attack speed. You're just losing that across the board on a lot of things, primarily quality on your skill gems, but also everything else. There's a number of things that reduce attack speed, so your attack speed itself is expected to be lower. And then finally, one big issue was the mana. You know, mana is a lot harder. You know, pre 3.15, a Toxic Rain was already quite taxing on the mana. It was already quite a problem to resolve. But in 3.15, it just got a lot worse with the nerf to Enduring Mana Flasks. That was nerfed significantly, as well as the what they call the Elrion craft, or the old school Elrion craft, the minus mana to attack skills on the ring slots. And so it is a lot harder to manual cast Toxic Rain the way we used to in 3.15. And so myself, along with a lot of other folks as well, have had to pivot and make changes to the build. And this is where I want to summarize that all in this one video, because I have, gone over some of these changes in a number of different videos leading up to this point, but I want to put it all in one spot. So first and foremost, Toxic Rain is not really my primary clear skill anymore in terms of mapping. It is now Caustic Arrow. And so the Caustic Arrow setup is I've got Caustic Arrow, Vicious Projectiles, Efficacy, Swift Affliction, and then Mirage Archer. And then this last one, Arrow Nova. I feel really comfortable with my damage right now, and so the Arrow Nova plus Mirage Archer gives an insane amount of coverage. You can try it out yourself. It basically covers the whole screen. However, it is quite taxing to your damage to have both of these gem setups. And so if you ever need more damage and less coverage, remove Arrow Nova and replace it with Void Manipulation. I do that. I make this gem swap every time I fight a boss. Or if I'm in a map where I feel like my damage just isn't quite there, maybe there's like 70% more monster life or something, I will switch out of the Arrow Nova and keep put Void Manipulation in there. I keep the Mirage Archer. Mirage Archer is quite handy on both map clear for obvious reasons and for bosses as well. When you're trying to dodge a lot of stuff, the Mirage Archer is able to continually keep Caustic Arrow on the boss, so that's actually quite nice. But if you even need further damage than that, you can also replace Mirage Archer with slower projectiles as well. And so those are ways that you can amp up your Caustic Arrow damage particularly when you're fighting a boss. And then for the single target skill, primarily is going to be Toxic Rain. It's going to be in a totem form now. And so the 6 links that I'm running here is Toxic Rain, Ballista Totem, which gives it the totem ability, Efficacy, Vicious Projectiles, Void Manipulation, and Conk Effect. And you'll notice we didn't use Swift Affliction on the Toxic Rain because the Toxic Rain actually does like skill effect duration, which Swift Affliction reduces. And so you opt for Conk Effect. In terms of play style, how it works is in your maps, you'll primarily use your Caustic Arrow with Mirage Archer and Arrow Nova. If you need a little bit more damage, swap out your Void Manipulation for Arrow Nova. And if you want to, you can cast totems along the way as well. Or you can also, for mapping, just use the Toxic Rain totems. I know a number of people who are doing that and are finding a lot of success doing that. So that works really well as well. But I do the Caustic Arrow and single target with the Toxic Rain totem. And then when you are fighting a single target, what you want to do is you're going to want to swap in the Void Manipulation for that Arrow Nova. You're going to want to drop all of your totems, which in this build is 4 Toxic Rain totems. And then you're going to want to Caustic Arrow the boss and keep your totems up, Caustic Arrow, and then kind of run around and keep both of these things up as much as possible. And then for your auras, you're going to run Malevolence and Skitterbots for obvious reasons. I don't even have Enlighten linked to these. Enlighten is extremely expensive this league because of all the mana nerfs, I think. Even a level 1 gem is going for, 1+ Exalt. And so I'm not even using one. That is okay because this setup here, Caustic Arrow clearing and Toxic Rain Totem, isn't really that taxing on the mana at all. And between whatever's left on my mana plus Enduring Divine Mana Flask, I easily have enough mana to get through all this. And oh, one more thing is I'm also a Pathfinder. After the Flask nerfs, Pathfinder is actually proven to be quite good. So if you're not already running Pathfinder on a build like this, I'd say give it a try if you're frustrated with Flasks. We'll talk about it a little bit more later. But I've had a really good experience, and I actually think it's better than Raider now. And I know a lot of people are playing Raider right now. So, if you're struggling with Flask, give this a go here. But, as a Pathfinder with Enduring Mana Flask, I'm not even needing an expensive Enlightened gem, so this makes that a lot cheaper in terms of the build. And then for the utility slots, I'm using Dash, Second Wind, Withering Step, and Portal. Now, Withering Step and Dash do share a cooldown, so you can't use these at the same time. Basically, Dash I'm using for mobility. Withering Step I'm just using to apply Wither stacks onto the boss when I'm fighting them. And then you're going to have an extra 4 link to do whatever you want with as well. You can use a cast when damage taken setup. It used to be in the past a Wither Totem setup. However, you're using a Toxic Rain Totem setup now, and so you can't really use both together. Well, technically you can. However, you have 4 maximum totems, and if you take any away to cast a Wither Totem, you know, you're just losing your Toxic Rain Totem at the same time. And so what you gain from the Wither, you're kind of losing from the Toxic Rain Totem. So I've opted to try to find other ways to apply Wither stacks, and one of the ways is Withering Step. Another way is through a Cluster Jewel, which I will show you when we get there. All right, so on to the gear. The bow, first off, I'm using a 6-link +3 bow gems bow with a little bit of attack speed and crafted chaos damage over time multiplier. Now, a bow like this is extremely cheap now. Don't think this is by any means expensive. You can get this exact same bow for 2 exalts now, and it will continue to drop in price as we go. This is only the end of the 2nd week, okay? So if you're looking at this 4th week, 5th week, you could probably even get these bows for 1 exalt. And the reason is they're just extremely easy to craft. Okay, there's nothing special going on here. It looks like a really intense bow, but it's not. One other thing I'll cover off is there is a change in 3.15 with bow modifiers, which is that the chaos damage over time multiplier modifier used to be a prefix. It is now a suffix, which actually opens the ability to craft even more insane Toxic Rain bows. Now, I'll link a video in the description below. Path of Math has gone through and talked about how to craft these insane bows. Basically, with an extra prefix open now, because you can craft chaos damage over time multiplier as a suffix. There's an insane prefix on hunter bows that give you, you know, on T1, 90 to 100% or something increased chaos damage. Okay, so that's a significant boost to the bow. So that's actually one good thing that came from the 3.15 patch in terms of a buff for Toxic Rain. And so I'll link a video in the description below. I could make one of these videos, but Path of Math already does an insane job in that video, so I don't think I need to make one as well. So make sure you check that video out if you want to craft your own super endgame Toxic Rain bow. All right, on to the helmet. Basically, helmet here, just life and resist. Having an available prefix to craft is very nice because you can get the area effect craft that I have on here for 1 divine orb, and that's really good with your caustic arrow setup. And then for the helmet enchant, you've got a number of different ones you can go with. I opted with caustic arrow area of effect because I wanted to you know, have as much screen coverage as possible for mapping. However, there's a lot of other good ones, and I don't even know if this is the best one. It's just the one that I wanted. But you know, you could go with, at least for caustic arrow even. There are 3 other options. The first is one is ability to apply wither stacks, which is actually very useful also. So that could be very strong. Then there's just straight up caustic arrow damage, which is probably the worst out of the 4. And then there's caustic arrow duration, which you know, I'm primarily using caustic arrow for clearing, and you know, the monsters are dying before the caustic arrow runs out. So duration isn't all that necessary for caustic arrow. You could also opt for a Toxic Rain enchant here, which is actually probably a good one if you're really struggling on bosses, which is really where this primarily struggles. And so if you're really struggling for bosses, go for a Toxic Rain one here. Toxic Rain, the good one, is +1 projectiles. However, you can always go for damage as well. All right, on to the Quiver. The Quiver, primarily what you're looking for is what I have here on my Quiver, which is Chaos Damage over Time Multiplier. There's a second one, which is a regular Damage over Time Multiplier with attacks. Having both on a Quiver is very good. A little expensive to get both on one now. You're looking at least 1+ Exalt. However, if you're just finding one, like I have here, it is extremely cheap to get these. You can also roll them yourself. Just get yourself a Hunter Quiver. 75 for T2, 80 for T1 in terms of eye level, and you can just harvest craft them with the chaos rerolls. They're extremely easy to craft and extremely cheap to buy, so make sure you grab one of these if you can afford it. On top of the one that I have, you'll want the chaos damage over time multiplier, you want regular damage over time multiplier, You want attack speed, you want life, and then any resist that you can get is very good. It doesn't have to be a penetrating arrow quiver, so make sure you just get 1 damage over time multiplier. Get the chaos one because that one rolls higher, and then life, a good life roll, and then anything else you want will scale up from there. All right, next onto the amulet. The amulet, what you're looking for is chaos damage over time multiplier and +1 level of all chaos gems. You'd think that this is really expensive, but it also is not very expensive. This league, you can get this exact amulet that I have for less than an Exalt now. You can scale up from there, of course. This is not even a T1 chaos damage over time multiplier. So if you're looking to invest more than, 10x budget like I have on my character, just keep adding things to this one. You can also get a +1 level of all dex gems, I think, if you have a double influence amulet. You can get, of course, higher damage over time multiplier. You can get the life. You can get better resist. Get whatever you want here, but I have chaos damage over time multiplier and +1 chaos gem. So this is, make sure you get at least that because it's cheap. It's 1x or less. And then for the anointment, I went with Atrophy. I think this is the best with my setup right now, just because we're not running Wither totems anymore, and we're not getting Wither to 15 stacks anymore, which is the cap. You're getting like 5 to 7 stacks of Wither now onto the enemy, and so it used to be that there is a corruption here, which is really good. 20% increased effect of Wither, and when you're at max Wither stacks, this is quite a bit of damage. It still is very good. You can continue to get that if you want, but I opted for the Atrophy, which gives you the damage over time multiplier and the chaos damage. But either one is fine. All right, and then for the rings, for 1 ring, definitely get Despair on hit. This is the curse, of course, that does the extra chaos damage. And then from there, get life and then top up your resist. Basically, these rings are cheap as well. I mean, with the caster reroll in Harvest, you can reroll it yourself on a Hunter ring, or you can just get one on a regular ring as well, it looks like. You can buy these as well. These are very cheap if you're not going too insane, of course, and then, it goes up from there as with everything else. The other ring, basically get life and as much resist as you can. This is a big resist slot for you, especially if you use Catalyst as well. So if you're running short on resist, just juice this up with Prismatic Catalyst. So get as many resist and life as you can on this second ring. Then for the chest piece, you really just need a 6-link with the right colors, a corrupted chest piece with the 6-link colors. This chest piece will cost you less than 30 chaos to buy at this point if it's corrupted, even if it's got insane life like the one I have, 126 life. So basically for the chest piece, get the 6-link, get the big life, and get as many resists as you can, or whatever resists you need. These are extremely cheap to buy. You can buy an insane one for less than an Exalt, just because they're corrupted. So just pick the colors on PoE Trade. But, this chest piece, I think when I bought it, cost me like 25 chaos or something, and that was like a week ago. So it's probably way cheaper than that now. Gloves, I opted for Culling Strike gloves. I really like Culling Strike. It's basically 10% more damage. And boss fights are taking a while because this is actually just so budget. And so, having that Culling Strike really is quite nice. So I went with that, and otherwise get life, resist, any intelligence that you need. Here, and same with everywhere else too. I didn't mention intelligence, but if you need intelligence, get it, helm, rings, wherever you want. But for the gloves, something like this, Culling Strike, extremely cheap, so, 50C or less for something this basic. From there, of course, you can go higher, of course, more life, more resist, more this, more that. But the alternative, if you don't want Culling Strike gloves, is you can also go for Hunter gloves. I think they're Hunter. And you can get damage over time multiplier, chaos damage over time multiplier. You can also get attack speed on gloves. So whichever combination of those you want. If you really want to go end game, you can actually craft Culling Strike and chaos damage over time multiplier gloves. Those are just absolutely insane. But this is super basic as it stands. So you pick up something like this or damage over time multiplier. Then onto the belt. What you're looking for is as much life as you can get. Any resist you need to top up. Flask stuff if you want. You can really get anything here. I think there's actually a damage over time roll on belts as well. I'm not sure, but long story short, anything you want on the belt that you're missing, stats, resist, get that. But belt is usually a really good slot for life too, so you can get some big life on a belt as well. And then finally for boots, boots, move speed, life, resist. Yeah, nothing too crazy here. From here, you can obviously get the tailwind and elusive and this and that, and keep spending. But the pair of this boots, and this might be like 20 chaos or something. I went, slightly more expensive, more premium to get the unaffected by desecrated ground, which is the chaos damage over time, puddles of course. And then onto the flasks. Nothing crazy here. Dying Sun was actually a new addition for me. When you can afford it, this is like 40 chaos or something. Very good to have 2 additional projectiles, both on your Caustic Arrow and your Toxic Rain. And as a Pathfinder, you can use it quite a bit. And you get less damage, fire damage taken. So very good flask. Then I've got a Seething Life Flask, Quicksilver Flask, a Quartz Flask for the dodge and the phasing, and then the Enduring Divine Mana Flask. But this is really the only mandatory flask. All right, on to the skill tree. I am running a 1 cluster jewel setup skill tree. If you've been watching my other guides, you know that the highest damage skill tree you can get is a 2 cluster jewel skill tree. Well, I mean, technically you go 3-2, but then you're sacrificing a whole ton, and I actually wouldn't recommend it. So 2 cluster jewel if you can. The other one you put down here in the southern cluster. However, this is budget again, so this is just a 1 cluster jewel setup. If you've seen from my other guides as well, and you'll know that if you went 0 clusters, you can also just basically replace this cluster and continue to path up here and all the way up to atrophy. You just take this life cluster here and this atrophy cluster up here. But otherwise, the tree is very straightforward. Coming out of the ranger, come down here, grab the life notes, come over here, make sure you pop down here, grab the life, wind dancer over here, herbalism cluster, master Fletcher for the attack speed, damage over time. This is even not necessarily a priority, but grab that on the way. Get this jewel socket. Acro, phase acro, big for the survivability, of course. The cluster jewel setup here. This is a new one when you're running Pathfinder. So, make sure you grab Careful Conservationist. This is an insane new cluster here. Flash charges gain, reduce flash charges used effect, and flash charges gain. So I really like that cluster on top of the Pathfinder. I'm having so many flash charges. They don't even run out on boss fights. Absolutely cool. Then, of course, Hunter's Gambit, damage over time multiplier. Come over here, Method to Madness, damage over time. Oh, this used to be a multiplier, I thought. Oh, chaos damage. Oh, these are multipliers. Chaos damage over time multipliers and chaos damage. Get this too, Revenge of the Hunted for some life. Up here, life, blood siphon. Come over here through entropy for damage over time. And then up here all the way to growth and decay for damage over time multiplier. And then over here, just path over to the life wheel and get as many of these as you can. And along the way, grab profane chemistry and exceptional performance. Skill effectuation is still very good. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention is make sure you come down here, 5 points, grab watchtowers, okay? This is going to significantly improve your single target damage, which is probably going to be where you're struggling. Basically what this does is it adds 1 more totem, so by default you can cast 3 attack totems, toxic rain totems. With this you're going to get 1 more. You're also going to get a lot of attack speed on your totems and placement speed as well. And action speed can't be modified below base value, which is actually pretty useful for Toxic Rain Totem. And so this is very useful to have, so make sure you grab that for the 5 points. Now, if you want to end game setup, of course, get that second cluster jewel setup. Drop these points from top down to fill in the cluster jewel. Also, grab this middle cluster jewel here. You can put a Thread of Hope in here with a very large or a large ring. I can't remember, but it's the one that will get you, Potency of Will for skill effectuation. You're going to get Harrier over here for attack speed and movement speed. Overcharge for power charges, etc., etc. So I think it covers one of these too, maybe arcane chemistry or one of these. So very good to have a thread of hope in here. And then finally, for this jewel socket right here, you can also grab a intuitive leap, which can get you Method to Madness and Charisma if you're running short on mana as well, and save yourself some points here. But these are very good points to get. Chaos damage over time multiplier, so I don't mind spending there as well. And then onto the cluster jewels. Again, a very budget build here. And so for the cluster jewels, get the chaos damage. I've got two notables, which is the budget play, of course. Unwaveringly Evil for the chaos damage, and Touch of Cruelty. Your chaos skills have a chance to hinder, and then you're doing more damage when you hinder as well. This is extremely useful to have, so make sure you have Touch of Cruelty somewhere. And then this is just damage. You can replace it with any other damage mod as well. And then, of course, if you want to, spend more money, get the 3 notables. Wicked Paul, very important to get on a large jewel as well if you can afford it. But then from the medium cluster jewels, I went with Wicked Paul. Wicked Paul's almost the best known for Toxic Rain, so you should definitely get this anywhere you can. Like I say, even on the large cluster if you can. But Wicked Paul for damage, skill factoration. And then I went with Eternal Suffering. This is where you can get Wither stacks as well. It's a lot more important to get this now because you're no longer running a Wither totem. So this is where you get 5 Wither stacks for even your mapping. So it actually helps with your mapping as well. Normally you wouldn't cast Wither totem when you map. So having this, you're going to get that when you map as well. You get up to 5 stacks on enemies, on the bosses. Then you can also Withering Step if you're fighting a boss. This will add another 7, okay? So make sure the boss has the 5 from Eternal Suffering, and then pop the other 7 on the boss from Withering Step, and you'll have 12 stacks of Wither on the boss. So that is the new Wither setup if you're not running a Wither totem. And then for the jewels, get 1 Corrupted Blood cannot be inflicted on you. That's very useful. And then any damage over time or life that you can get on it. Over here, the damage over time multiplier, life, basically are the 2 main rolls anywhere that you can get on those jewels. Make sure you grab those. Same with here. This is life, damage over time multiplier, life, damage over time multiplier. Oh, this one doesn't even have life. And then also, I don't even have a Watcher's Eye. So when you can afford it, get the Watcher's Eye. That gives you Malevolence, gives you damage over time multiplier. But this is the super budget 10x setup, and from here scale up as I've suggested, and you'll be well on your way. The Ascendancy, I should have talked about this before the skill tree, so I apologize. But anyway, the Ascendancy, I went with Pathfinder. I've also played this as a Raider. Raider is also very good, okay? But Raider, to get Elemental Ailment Avoidance, which is what you would normally get, you do have to invest a little bit more because it's now 50% now on the Raider if you take the Ascendancy point. And so you're going to have to invest a little bit more into other avoidance. Typically, you'd grab the Crystal Skin Cluster over here, and that will almost get you there. Other than that, craft some on your gear. You can get it on Cluster Jewels. You can also pop up here to get Elemental Focus for another 10%. And so that is a little bit more investment on skill tree. As a Raider, so I wasn't a big fan of that. I also wasn't a big fan of the flask changes. With Raider, I couldn't keep up my flasks really that well. I just didn't like it. And so I tried the Pathfinder. Pathfinder is amazing. I can use the flasks like I used to. Absolutely very cool. Come over here, grab Master Alchemist. This removes ailments anytime you use a flask, which is always or whenever you want. And so not being immune is fine, because as soon as you are hit with an ailment, you can immediately remove it with a flask. So very powerful here, and you're always gonna have flask charges. Then make sure you grab Nature's Reprisal. This wasn't as good in 3.14 for Toxic Rain, which is why a lot of people moved to Raider. But in my setup here, because I'm using Caustic Arrow for my mapping, the area of effect is actually really good. This is 30%, and then on my helmet chant I had the 24%. So my Caustic Arrow is actually quite big. And then the 15% more chaos damage is both good for your Caustic Arrow and your Toxic Rain. It actually makes more damage than you can get out of the Raider, so this node is very strong. And then on top of that, Nature's Adrenaline, you get your move speed and your attack speed on Flask effect, which again is always, which makes up for some of the speed that you lose from a Raider. So, you know, between the two, Raider is still absolutely extremely good. I'm not writing that off by any means. I did play it. It worked well. It's very fast. It's a little annoying to get elemental element avoidance, which you do want. And Flasks were annoying. And then I switched to the Pathfinder. And what I'll say is, I do prefer the Pathfinder. And if you are like me and didn't like, you know, investing in elemental element avoidance, or are frustrated with Flask uptime, definitely give this a try. I don't think you'll regret it. Just don't go Deadeye. It's not very good for this build. And then for the Bandits, I went with the 2 skill points. And then for the Pantheon, I went with Soul of Lunaris. It is just very good to have the additional dodge and projectile avoidance, because you are not dodge capped as a Pathfinder. So anywhere you can get dodge is great. And the upgrade Soul of Lunaris is just so good. You know, against things like porcupines, which often kill me, and chain projectiles as well. So very good to have that. And then for the minor Pantheon, I went with Soul of Verslatha. It's actually quite a bit overkill between this and Pathfinder. My life flasks are always up. I never run out. So, you know, you can choose to run that, but you can choose to run anything else too. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. This is the budget League Starter 3.15 Caustic Arrow Toxic Rain Totem build guide. From here, as you've heard in the video, you can scale this up way more than this. This is a sub 10x build. You can go cluster jewels, or way better, you can go additional cluster jewels. You can go intuitive leap, you can go thread of hope, you can go gear upgrades, bow upgrade for more damage, quiver upgrades have a lot of damage, glove upgrade, lots of damage, amulet upgrade, you know, and just upgrades. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please like and subscribe. Also stream on Twitch Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. If you have any questions, leave a comment below or come on Twitch and give me a shout. I also have a Discord, and so you can ask me any way you can get a hold of me. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.